We had a profitable month, barely.
So I was right.
As I alluded to last month, we made a pretty major breakthrough on the sales side of things for the law firm. And by sales, I mean bringing in new retainers, new clients, and getting people set up there. We set a new all-time high for monthly retainers collected. And retainers are basically deposits for future services. So the more retainers we have, the more revenue we can make down the line. So the new problem we're facing is not having enough people to actually do all the work we're bringing in. So we brought on a new paralegal this month, and that has gone quite well. And we're looking to bring on another paralegal soon to try and round out our capacity a bit and make sure that we can actually keep doing the work that we're bringing in, especially if we're able to keep up or even improve on our current sales pace. What's stressing me out the most right now is just making sure that we can continue to do a good job for our clients, because if we bring on too much at once, then we risk being stretched too thin. So bringing on some reinforcements here is going to be very helpful, and it already has been helpful. And we're able to keep things moving and keep clients happy. But one major challenge I'm increasingly running into is having to actually work on these matters myself, when really I need to be out there selling and bringing in new clients. So if we can bring in some folks who can handle those matters because we just have more capacity to go around, then I can spend more of my time on actually bringing in new clients and bringing in new business, and ideally wouldn't be having to spend very much time towards actual active matters, because they'd already be handled by other members of the team who can focus on those matters. And looking ahead to the next few months, the big projects that I really want to make sure happen are: one, bringing on a second paralegal, and two, bringing on a managing attorney. And this isn't the first time I've mentioned bringing on a managing attorney. We had a decent effort towards that back in the spring. However, with sales issues that we had, I was pretty nervous about bringing someone on. I'm far less nervous now because we have the work to go around. We know a lot more about what we're doing as a firm. We know a lot more about the practice areas we're trying to focus on. So not only would it be a lot more attractive to a potential candidate who'd be looking to be a managing attorney, but it should also allow us to better identify someone who might be able to succeed in that position. Because really the whole goal with that position would be so that I no longer have to manage each individual person on the legal team. Not that I wouldn't be able to help in some capacity, but I want someone else to really oversee the legal side of things so that I can focus on whatever other area of the business needs the most attention. So right now, I think that would make sense for me to double down on sales, because that has gone well, and I can try to build some systems out there. Meanwhile, knowing that the matters are taken care of by a competent, experienced managing attorney who is managing a competent team of other attorneys and paralegals. And we should become significantly more profitable at that point too. We actually just had a profitable month for once, so that was really nice to see, because we've increased our billable capacity, our revenue capacity, and we've meanwhile increased our sales as well. So that is a nice formula and should help for growth going forward. And we want to keep that momentum going. It's very hard work to keep this moving, but that's what it takes. And with the profits from this last month, we were able to make up some of the losses from the previous month and pay down our credit lines a bit. So that should give us a little bit more breathing room heading into this next month. And sooner rather than later, I think we'll be able to take some pretty large shots at the other debts that I have on my balance sheet. It's been a grind, to say the least. Meanwhile, on the steam cleaning side of things, a positive development there is that we have someone who is very interested in purchasing the assets of the company, which would be a nice thing just to get off of my plate. Even though I don't spend very much time towards it, it has been a huge financial hole for me, and I'd like to close that. But it's going to take a long time to pay down the debt that was used to fund those operations. But if I can start to recover something now, that would be great. I'll be able to share more on that if anything actually comes of it. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into last month's net worth numbers. As a reminder, our net worth was a little bit under $88,000. As always, let's start with the good stuff, the assets. I still do not like the position we're in here, and it's going to require a lot of work, mainly on the law firm side of things, to create a situation where I have plenty of cash that can be used to pay down the debt, which we'll get to in a moment. But the most major change from this month was actually that I took out some money from my Roth IRA. I really didn't want to do it, but I decided to take out the cash balance that I had in there really for this sort of emergency situation, to make sure that we had enough money to meet payments and not get too close for comfort on missing any. So we have assets here to pull from, but it's just a question of what I'm going to pull from. Is it going to be from the Roth IRA? Is it going to be from the HSA to pay for some previous medical expenses? It's that sort of thing that we're weighing right now while I wait for a potential distribution from the law firm, which I think is coming soon. I'm just trying to hold the line, and the IRA is one of those last lines of defense. I also need to refill some of my reserves that aren't shown here for my rental properties, just to make sure we can handle some expenses that we're expecting in the near to not so near future. You just have to be ready for those situations with real estate, and I have been tapping into those reserves reserves to pay for ongoing expenses and maintenance for those properties. And I'd really like to get in a position where those are nice and full again. And then that'll just be another layer of security that isn't really shown here, but I guess you could say it's built into the underlying value. But in total, that leaves me with just over $1.2 million in assets. And now onto liabilities. Not a whole lot of change here either, other than making minimum payments, but I did pull out about $1,000 from my HELOC, so that balance did go up. The rest should have all gone down. We can go over here to the debt paydown tab and see that. So we paid down a little bit over $2,000, almost $2,500 in debt, and most of that was just for minimum payments, although we did see the HELOC balance tick up. Again, that was just to make sure I had some cash going through the middle of last month, which I think will be our financial trough. It'll be very nice to take some of this debt pressure off in due time. And one thing that's not reflected on the liability sheet are my underlying credit lines for the steam cleaning and law firm businesses that technically would be built into the equity value on the asset side. Didn't really make any changes there on the asset side, but I did pay down some debt last month on the law firm side of things. That was after taking on some debt in the previous month, so it's really just a wash. But in total, that leaves me with over $1.1 million in liabilities, which means our net worth has decreased down to around $84,000, which is a decrease of just shy of $4,000 from the previous month. Our debt ratio has increased to 93.02%, and our passive income remains at around $800 per month, though a lot of that has been being rolled back into property maintenance, so I really haven't been seeing all of that in a given month, at least recently. So not a great month on paper, although I do think we are very, very close to actually having some pretty decent months here in the coming months, now that we have the sales problem fixed, or mostly fixed, and also have our revenue capacity being increased. And that increase in revenue capacity should be largely profitable, since it's not like we're adding a huge amount of expenses at this point when it comes to, say, marketing or other things. And with a law firm, like pretty much any service business, the biggest cost is going to be personnel cost. So as long as we can make sure that people are doing profitable work and are doing it well, then that should bode well for the future. And we can finally start taking some big stabs at the debt balances, which I know I've been saying for months, but we went through a lot of challenges over the first half of the year that we're finally getting our feet under us here in the second half. So I think it's really close. And there's still a lot of hard work in front of us to get there. And even once we get there, there's going to be a lot of hard work just to maintain that position. Business is not easy, and this has been a really challenging adventure, to say the least. And I have learned a ton through the process, so I keep learning more and more each month. And I keep figuring out new ways to work on things, to structure things, how to identify talent, how to address certain matters, maybe in a more efficient way or a more cost-effective way. There's a lot of different things to work on, and there's always something to learn. So I'll keep on pushing. Thank you all for your continued support through the process. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.